Welcome to Up to the Minute. It is Tuesday, October the 20th. Great to have you with us for this show. We've got a half hour of your HCC news and information and some special guests as always. But today is Tuesday, meaning we have two. That's right, two for Tuesday. Special guests. There you go. Brittany Pacheco is one of them. Frank Cooper is the other. They're both co-hosts. Good morning, guys. Thanks for being here.
Hey, good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Todd. How you ladies
Brittany
doing?
and Frank. Now, Franco, I usually ask Brittany if she's been outside yet. It's somewhat better this morning than it was yesterday morning. Have you been outside to experience the weather yet, Frank?
I have. I went outside in my robe to the mailbox, and it was a nice breezy feeling, I must say. It was 73
this morning, 77 yesterday, which was completely ridiculous. And Brittany will be the first to say 77 in the morning, I should say. Brittany will be the first to jump on that train.
No, it was way too warm. In my opinion, it was way too warm. I enjoyed that little cold front that we had last week, and it was just blazing hot, after those 2 days. So it's, welcome to Houston, everyone. But I do want to take the opportunity to remind everyone to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also about YouTube. Frank, people can subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You gotta hit that bell, man. Hit that notification bell for the latest episodes, man. Don't slip on that bell.
Exactly.
So what Frank's actually trying to say is please subscribe. We're asking you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell, as Frank would say.
Hit that bell, but also don't forget to hit the share button at the bottom of this podcast here on Facebook, and be sure to share it onto your personal news feed. That way we can not only grow our audience, but more importantly, just share this vital information out to everyone.
That's right. Brittany, Frank, stand by. We're going to keep both of you around. We'll check in with you later on in the show. Make sure you monitor the questions in our social media. If we get anything coming through, just let me know. We've got two special guests today, both of them talking about somewhat similar subjects. Antrece Baggett, she is a History Associate Chair and on the Office of Institutional Equity Committee on Anti-Stalking Training. Good morning, Antrece.
Good morning. Good morning.
We are happy to have you with us. I want to hear more from you in a little while, if you'd stand by with us for just a few minutes. But right now, we're going to start with Osvaldo Gomez. And Osvaldo is the Deputy Title IX Coordinator, Office of Institutional Equity, right here at HCC. Good morning, Osvaldo. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
I know you're both here to talk about, we like to lighten things up in the morning, but really what you're here to talk about this morning are some serious subjects that our students, our faculty, and our staff need to know about. And I want to ask you first, you work for the Office of Institutional Equity. For our faculty and staff and students who may not be familiar with your office, maybe you can tell them what your office does and what you're there for.
Absolutely. The Office of Institutional Equity is here to mitigate risk for the institution. We cover multiple things. More importantly, we oversee compliance to the institution's policy regarding non-discrimination. We monitor laws and legislation that affects how we do business and how we protect our students. We actually do a lot of consultations. We work directly with our faculty, our students, our stakeholders who require information regarding what we do, or just assistance regarding there is a situation and I want to talk to somebody about it. We offer training, from the mandated training, which we'll be talking about here in just a few minutes, but also training in different areas regarding non-discrimination in Title IX. And investigations. More importantly, one of the things that we have is we have a key investigations unit that manages discrimination, retaliation, Title IX, sexual misconduct, stalking types of investigations, both involving students and employees and visitors and so forth.
And you mentioned something real important when you were opening just a few minutes ago, but you talked about state laws changing, and realistically, state laws are always changing, and they could affect our institution drastically, especially if we're not trained properly to report certain things. And I know there's new state laws that we're facing right now, or additions to current state laws.
Absolutely. And one of those key laws is Senate Bill 212. Our legislators during our last legislative session last year passed a law that's unique for the state of Texas that really says every employee who works in higher education has an obligation to mitigate risk to assist each other in reporting incidents of sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. So that new law that has passed requires every single one of us who works in higher education to report it when we see it, because the consequences of that could lead to one's termination, and including some Class A and Class B misdemeanor charges. So it's a very serious violation should that not happen, but we have the resources and the training that we have been providing to help our employees say, I heard something, a student talked to me about an incident, what do I do in order to report that as quickly as possible, and now allow us in our office, in the Office of Institutional Equity, to look at that, look at the details, and not place you in an investigative position, but allow us to say, thank you for letting us know. We will follow up with that and ensure that the individual has some level of supportive services and explore that further.
I know we worked with you guys on some training that's currently going on for faculty and staff. We'll talk about that later in your interview. But I want to go back to stalking right here, because you hear more about stalking in like the 70s and the 80s. It was simply following somebody around, maybe tracking them. But nowadays, with the advent of social media, it's turned into a whole new animal, and it's a big problem. First off, what's the definition of stalking in your eyes?
Well, the formal definition of stalking is really engaging in a behavior and a conduct that's, targeted to an individual, where it makes that individual fear for their safety or creates some emotional distress. What you and how you introduced is exactly part of that definition. And as you mentioned, your technology has changed our world tremendously. With Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these geo trackers where we know where we are. People love to share their location. Hey, I'm having lunch here today, or I'm visiting my family, from very personal situations so tracking one through technology is another form of cyber stalking that we manage. So it's in different forms. The examples that you provided include, you can expand that to, the true following somebody around, and stalking oftentimes is no longer, something that's seen like, in other words, somebody may appear to have good intentions, from offering you gifts, from, hey, let me walk you to your class, or let me walk you to your car. Right now we have a lot of limitations throughout our campuses, but it's, in the parking lot, following somebody around, trying to be nice in some way, but at the same time monitoring your whereabouts.
Let's talk about Title IX. For folks who may not be familiar, we hear Title IX all the time, but what is Title IX and what does it encompass?
Well, in a nutshell, more importantly, Title IX has been around since 1972. That just kind of gives you an idea. Title IX is a law that protects, our students and our employees regarding against gender-based harassment in many forms. We talk about Title IX and a big focus on sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, but Title IX is really protections against the individual because of gender and sex, which means it runs into pregnancy protections, parenting protections, the sexual misconduct protections. And we are obligated to comply with Title IX because we receive federal funds. So what that means to us is that when an incident occurs that's sexual misconduct or it's sex or gender based, Title IX is implied in this, and we would need to explore and conduct an investigation. The big piece about Title IX is really about providing the individual supportive services. One of the key things in Title IX legislation is make sure that an individual who is experiencing an incident of a violation of some sort, that we are present there, even if they do not want to file a complaint, that we're able to provide them some counseling support services for external support services. Antrece will talk about that a little bit because it ties into intimate partner violence, into dating violence, into domestic violence. It has all these tentacles in some way, but it's really important from a Title IX perspective. It's protection for a gender, sexual-based type discrimination.
Osvaldo, one final question. We're all living in a different time right now where we're working virtually. Many of us have not returned to the buildings yet, but our support services are still there for our students. And I would imagine that includes your offices as well. How have you been meeting with students or faculty or staff? You're obviously available remotely and virtually as well?
Correct. And absolutely. And the advantage that we have is that we're all readily available. We have an incredible team that's led by David Cross, our director, myself, that I support the Title IX initiatives. We have Renee, who handles our training. She's compliant. So we have a couple key investigators, Gary and Lonica, and our data specialist, and our support with Olivia. So individuals can contact us directly via email. I think I provided some of those resources we can share. If they're going to file a complaint or a concern, the links are available on our website, accessible, even through my Eagle page as well. So they can contact us, they can contact us directly by telephone. And when we meet, we will have these kind of virtual meetings so we can have that discussion. Our first line of defense is really letting us know that there is a concern, no matter how minute it may be, so we can initiate contact as quickly as possible and have that discussion so we can say, what can we do? Is it an issue of, can we get you a counselor? Were there 2 students or 2 employees involved? Is it an external resource we need to tap into? Our goal is to respond and be as quickly and as efficiently and provide you that level of support confidentially, allow some of that privacy, which is very important, and realizing that there's a lot of trauma involved when just raising a concern in itself is difficult. So we are definitely mindful and trained to manage that conversation, that dialogue, to make the individual feel comfortable.
Osvaldo Gomez, we appreciate the work you and your office does. And at HCCTV, we were very proud to help you guys out with the training. And folks, if you do get a chance, you're going to have to take the training. So make sure you do so. The deadline is the end of this month. And, HCCTV worked with the Office of Institutional Equity to provide some help with that training as well. Thanks, Osvaldo.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Antrece. I wanted to talk to Osvaldo about this, but you can comment on it as well. October is Domestic Violence and Awareness Month, and I notice you're wearing a sign of purple right now in support of that.
Yes. So October is Intimate Partner Violence Awareness and our Domestic Violence Month. So I have my beautiful purple flower on, as well as the second finger on my right hand. Is purple as well.
Antrece, since we've been in lockdown, we've heard some very disturbing news reports that have been resurfacing really for the past few months, is that domestic violence across the country has been on the rise. Do you have a take on that? Is it because people are in this lockdown situation? What's happening here that would cause that?
So what the research and the data tells us is that in most instances of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, they tend to follow what's known as the power and control wheel. It goes in cycles. There's a honeymoon phase, then it builds up to the aggressiveness, and then there's the act, and then it goes around. So it's a wheel. So what COVID-19 has presented with us are the stressors of people working from home. A lot of people had jobs lost, or their hours were cut. Also, we had children in the home. So you have it's kind of like a perfect storm of stressors at one time. And especially during the lockdown, people could not leave. So in instances where the country was open or prior to COVID-19, if someone, a male or female, was in a domestic violence relationship, they could leave that individual and go to work or go and visit. But during the lockdown, everyone was at home. And of course, if we look at those numbers, they spiked not just in Harris and Brazoria County, but throughout the country. So much so in some cases, the increase went up from 20 to 30 and maybe even 40%, depending on where you look in the country.
Antrece, I want to talk about your collaboration with the OIE, particularly with working on the committee. First, I want to ask you something we all need to be aware of. What does it mean to be a mandatory reporter? Maybe you can explain that term.
So a mandatory reporter, we're all mandatory reporters, but we're mandatory reporters in that we are required to report incidents of domestic violence, stalking, intimate partner violence to the Office of Institutional Equity. The only people who are not mandatory reporters are the confidential employees, and that would be those individuals who are counselors.
Okay, and maybe you can talk to us about some of the other event. Can't bear with me a second. Let's talk about the role that faculty play in a safe learning environment.
I'm sorry.
Well, I get it. We all have dogs in the background, and we had talked about lawn people showing up to start doing the lawn. So that happens. I get it.
We knew this was going to happen. I get it. So, they just like threw me off so bad.
I know they throw you off. And they're getting mine that they're going to start barking pretty soon too. That's just the world we're living in, the COVID situation.
Just a second, Abby. Come on, baby. It's okay. I know. Oh my God. I know.
Yeah, that happens. I know. That's just the world we're living in. We've got fur babies in the background that have a tendency to have a mind of their own.
So could you ask me the question again?
Yes, absolutely, because I was getting thrown off as well, but that's all right. What role does faculty play in providing a safe learning environment?
So the role that we faculty play is that in most instances, we can tell or we can see when there's any type of change in a student's attendance, with he or she doing their homework, assignments, coming to class. A lot of times I personally have noticed that grades will drop drastically.
Right.
What's always important for us to remember is that sometimes it's not just the fact that students don't want to do their work. They may be in a place where they just cannot do it. And this is important to remember when we think about the lockdown. With some of those stressors, sometimes the abuser will not allow you to do your work, or it may be a case of stalking or something like that. So in order to create that safe environment for our students, I always encourage colleagues just to be flexible and understanding, especially during this time. We all have stressors and hot buttons that we may not have even been aware of.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of learning what the hot buttons are as we go through this. But one of the things that we've always stressed in this show to our students is if you're facing a situation like that, of course, the OIE is available online. And then we also have counseling services that are available to our students and EAP services that are available to our employees and our staff and our faculty. And those are available no matter what, whether we're on lockdown or in the buildings.
And you know what, Todd, you just brought something up. We normally tend to think about our students going through or experiencing intimate partner violence. But what the data and the information has told us repeatedly is that the intimate partner violence has no one group of people. It can impact students, it can impact colleagues, it can impact administrators, doctors, lawyers, any and everybody. So we really should be aware that it could be happening to any of us.
And it's something that we all are obliged to, if we see something, to say something, particularly reach out to the OIE. We're going to place some links to exactly what Osvaldo was talking about. We'll have something on the month of October and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And then we'll also have the information for the Office of Institutional Equity in the social media post for the show. So if you're looking for those links, we'll have them for you. Antrece, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you for joining us this morning.
All right. Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you. You take care. And we're going to move on to our HCC news and announcements. It's Brittany, is it quiet over at your house? What are things like over there?
Thankfully, Luna is napping. She is in the other room. The ruckus that we heard from from before did not interrupt her. So yes, she is being quiet. So that's
yeah. Well, the
that's a
dogs
win.
over here were about to start barking at any minute. They didn't like that. So
Oh no, Peter Frampton.
oh, he was not having any of that. Yeah, there was some nervousness going on. Frank, we've got some things going on we want to let everyone know of. Northwest has a event called Life Hacking 101 for Healthy Adults.
Yes, let's keep it real and positive. So it's today at noon, October 20th, presented by Stephanie McKenzie. For more information about that is N as in Nathan, w.osl@student.hccs.edu.
And Brittany, we had a guest on the show yesterday talking about this next event. In fact, she's going to be the moderator for the event. I'm talking about Helen Graham, and it's one of HCC's virtual coffee breaks that's happening at 11 a.m. today.
It is. So Helen Graham, who is the chair for philosophy, humanities, and library sciences, will be joining Janet May, who is our chief HR personnel. And also Thursday, which is October 22nd, Janet will be joined by Dr. Erica Stevens, who is the part of the English faculty and co-chair for the Bedichek Orman Auction Committee. So be sure to grab your cup of coffee, join your coworkers, Janet May, Chief of Human Resources Officer, to continue chatting and adapting. So check your emails. That's your HCCS email to register. Just simply type in the search engine coffee breaks.
And Frank, we've also got something going on today with recsports and a very important discussion.
Yeah, so today's discussion is about sports diversity in sports. So such as mental health, the COVID situation going on right now, athletes protesting, the Special Olympics. Giveaways will be there at noon today. For more information about that, go to sports@hccs.edu or hccs.edu/recsports.
And students, we've got a very important training session for you today. Suicide prevention training. HCC's counseling's virtual suicide prevention training sessions. One is happening today for students. It has a mission to reduce suicidal behavior and save lives. The student sessions this week are 1:30 p.m. today, Tuesday, October 20th, and 10:30 a.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, October 21st. You can go to faculty/staff session. Oh, wait, the faculty staff session, that's what it is. That's happening at 10 a.m. Tuesday, October 27th. So this week, the students, next week, faculty and staff, everyone get a chance to take part in this very special and important training. We'll have the links and information in the social media posts for the show. Brittany, HCC's Career and Job Placement Services, they're hosting an event as well.
They are, and that event is the Fortune 500. They'll be featuring the Fortune 500 keynote speaker, Julian Palcino of the Pathways to Success podcast. That sounds pretty cool. So Julian will, he interviews exceptional leaders and will engage in HCC students in this presentation. That's happening this Wednesday, October 21st. From 1 to 3 p.m. You can register, because it is required, by going to hccs.edu/careerhub.
And if you're into film or filmmaking, well, Frank's going to tell you about an event that's being hosted by, I believe it's HCC Northwest.
Exactly. So the HCC Visual and Performing Arts COE continues a free virtual workshop with independent producer Sharon Fernati. That will be tomorrow, and from noon to 2 o'clock. Registration is required. So for more information about that, email Michael Cohen at michael.cohen, COHN as in Nathan, at hccs.edu.
And speaking of Northwest, they've got an event going on. It's the library's Discovery Days, where it's not just fun, but you'll get a chance to learn something new, drawing spooky, scary skeletons.
Yes,
Wow. All right.
It's a live demonstration on how to draw a skeleton. So taking care to paying attention to its anatomy, because let's just face it, there's so many parts to the skeletal figure. It's crazy. And then you can also decorate it for the season because, hey, it's spooky season. So it's part of Discovery Days, as Todd previously mentioned, with more to come. That's happening this Friday, October 23rd from 3 to 3 p.m. Registration is required. You can go to library.hccs.edu/Discovery Days, and we'll be sure to include that link in this post.
So Brittany, Alberto Urbina?
I do know Alberto.
Well, he's the Dean of Material Science Center of Excellence, and he's been featured in the Houston Chronicle about the demand for welding to careers. The welder labor market is expected to grow for more than 21% from 2016 to 2026. Welders are needed in many areas across Southeast Texas. We've got the training for them at the Southeast College. It's a course you can get enrolled in today, and they have various areas of certifications. You can go on and they'll place you in a job. Welders are in very high demand. For more information on our welding program, check out hccs.edu/centers/material-science. We'll have that very long post in the show. And I believe you can also go to hccs.edu/welding. Check that out as well. That's an easier way to do it. Outdoor Wi-Fi zones, Frank, we've got them on our campuses for our students.
Yes, it's true. So some students are now allowed into HCC campus buildings, but not all. So parking lot Wi-Fi zones are available to connect students to the internet. They will not be able to access restrooms in the building. They will not be able to access to outlets to charge devices. So for more information about the different Wi-Fi zones, go to hccs.edu/outdoor Wi-Fi.
Real quickly, the student virtual lobby is available. If you don't know about that, go to our homepage. You'll find it. It's very easy. You can also go to visit virtual open houses on our campuses virtually. We'll have all that available at hccs.edu/informationsessions, and virtual college transfer fairs. You can listen to colleges like Texas A&M, Prairie View A&M, U of H, all branches, and many, many more. For more information on that, check out hccs.edu/transferfair. I want to check in with Frank because Frank, did you get a chance to watch the Texans play the fake Oilers over the weekend?
I did, and I was proud for about 58 minutes. I was very proud of them, and then the defense decided to not show up, and
yeah,
there you have it. So the Texans offense looked great. I mean, Deshaun Watson looked like Deshaun, but Derrick Henry could not be stopped.
Yeah, well, it's just like when we had just J.J. Watt for many years, and Hopkins were the key players, but they can't play all the positions, Now we've got Deshaun and J.J., and it looks like the plan when you're playing the Texans is look for where J.J. is and just run the opposite way.
I was just confused, like when the Texans scored that last touchdown, they were up 7. Just kick the extra point and be up 8. Force them to score a touchdown and go for 2. I don't know why they went for 2 to go up 9. I didn't understand that.
It was a questionable. I guess new coach, same results.
Yeah.
What happens? They're the Texans, so they disappointment is in there. It's in their DNA. I think.
I'm gonna chime in real quick because I will say one football game that happened this weekend on Saturday. It was between 10-year-olds and up to middle school age kids. My nephew, who plays defense, had his homecoming game this weekend, and they won. So go Broncos!
Awesome.
Well, at least one Houston team didn't disappoint this weekend. Yeah. So thank you for your nephew's 10-year-old team.
Yeah, that's exactly. U of H, they were a disappointment as well, but then again, they've only played like 2 games so far this year. So who knows what's going to happen with sports. Hey, that's about wraps up the show for today. We got some guests on the show tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, we do. So tomorrow we're going to be joined by a former student who was part of our student success story. So her video will also be presented hopefully here, because I know it was presented during a board of trustees meeting, and we'll see how her new life is going as a dental assistant at URBN Dental. And since it's Wednesday, Frank, that also means we're going to be joined by another weekly guest.
Chief Greg Cunningham's going to be in the house tomorrow morning. So stay up tomorrow morning and see what updates he has for the campuses and what's to come for the remainder of the semester.
I want to show you something real fast, okay? The dog was like raising heck during the whole show. The show's almost over. There he is on the floor.
Peter Frampton.
Lay down. Now's the time to take
Who's a good boy?
Yeah, so there you go. That's what life is with Peter Frampton. Show's about over. Time to calm down and just chill out for a while. So there you go, folks.
Yeah, well, mine's about to start waking up, so gotta wrap.
Well, just in time. Yeah. Yours has been better than mine over the past few months, Brittany. I'll give her that. So, All right, folks, we appreciate you joining us on the show today. We look forward to having you tomorrow on Up to the Minute, 10 a.m. live right here on Facebook.